guy, now he's second. So I'd like also to thank, do we have Mr. and Mrs. Mercado here? At the back? Mr. and Mrs. Mercado, thank you very much, if you can hear me, for the vegetables. If you can see the vegetables on at the kitchen there. It's for everybody. Just feel free to grab one, and if you feel like donating for the church, you're very much welcome. But thank you very much for that initiative. We really appreciate offering your fruits of labor in love. Thank you. Last night we were happy to have our small group going at Scottsdale area. We talk about again, we're doing Mrs. White's book called Thoughts from the Mount of Blessing. We really enjoy that book. Last night we are on the theme that says, "Blessed are ye when men shall revile you." Pastor Glenn used a different word as he translates it. Blessed are you when men insult you. What's interesting in that particular page, Mrs. White stopped there. Usually in the Beatitude, there is a blessed, and then the context is given. If you go back to Matthew 5, the context of that is, when you are reviled and persecuted for Christ's sake. Okay? But Mrs. White stopped there, and when we were reading that, we were trying to be facetious, but everybody stopped and say, "Okay, that's it." Because everybody for some reason, many of our members in Scottsdale last night, in one way or another, experienced being disrespected, being insulted. Yeah, how do you feel about that? When someone insulted you or disrespected you, or in fact, whatever other words for reviled, if you're being reviled, big word, right? It's also a heavy experience. And then you see, you're blessed. We were jokingly say, "Okay, that's it. Are we really brave enough to continue reading this passage?" So we pause, just thinking about that message. Now, the message today, thank you very much, Adrian, for reading another message, and I find this quite similar to that effect. If you could join me, opening your Bible once again to John chapter 17. John chapter 17, verses 20 to 23. Jesus said, "I do not pray for these alone, but also for those who will believe in me through their word, that they may all be one as you, Father, are in me, and I in you, that they also may be one in us, that the world may believe that you sent me. And the glory which you gave me, I have given them, that they may be one, just as we are one, in them and you in me, that they may be made perfect in one, and that the world may know that they have sent me and love them as you have loved me." If you're having a hard time understanding that passage, it's because of the many passages in John, that is the personal prayer of Christ, and sometimes it looks like Christ was being so repetitive in this, and maybe because it's very important. Have you tried praying, "Lord, Lord, please, please, heal my son, oh Lord, heal my son, Lord"? As if Jesus Christ was praying repeatedly, saying the same phrase over and over again. It's simply because it's important. "I pray that they may be one, oh God, that they may be one, just like us, you and me. We're one, right? I pray that they may be one." Verse 21, then verse 22, the same thing. Verse 23, the same thing. As if Christ was mumbling. Now, Christ understands the big challenge here. The big challenge here is this. Among his disciples, there is a zealot who's quite angry against tax collectors. A zealot is one who's fighting for the country to get rid of the Roman enslavers, if you may. They see the symbol of Roman as invaders, evil rulers of Israel, especially Jerusalem. And if you are a tax collector, you are serving the Romans and not Jerusalem. When Christ was putting the disciples together, there is a zealot and then there's a tax collector. And then mix that with brothers who are called sons of thunders or sons of thunder. I don't know if you have met a person that you don't want to really cross because, there will be lightning and thunder. James and John are known to be sons of thunder. Now, if you are forming a group of people and you'd like these people to be one, I'm not quite sure you'll follow the model of Jesus. There's a reason why people go to, if you are church hopping, there's a hidden motivation there. You're looking for a church that would somewhat, like you, look at the same thing, look at the things the way you see things. If you're conservative, you want to be in a conservative church. If you're progressive, you want to be in a progressive church. Why? So that you can feel unity and oneness, because the less conflict there is, it looks like you're achieving unity. But that's not Christ's method and model. Christ's method and model is pick every single one of them who are actually coming from extreme differences and putting them together. Now, the challenge is not actually just for these disciples. When Christ was praying in this passage, he was saying, I'm praying not only for them, but for those who would believe in them. That means Christ is praying for us. Now, in his prayer, Jesus said, I hope they could be in unity so that the world may know. If there is God's way of communicating to the world his gospel, it is not actually through, Daniel and Revelation is a very good, powerful presentation, especially if you are actually attracted to prophecies. And Christ, of course, is the center of prophecy. But brothers and sisters, the best form of evangelism, it is not actually Daniel and Revelation. It is not actually health seminar. It is not actually what did we have in Phoenix? The big health gathering, Pathways to Health. Those are great stuff. But if you pressure Christ, he knows that his time is coming. And in John 17, he's praying. And if you'd like his message to be spread out through the world, it is not through just merely teaching. It is how his disciples would demonstrate loving one another despite the fact that they are so different from each other. This took me, I don't know how many years ago, but in 1995, it's the first time I leave Philippines and visit a different country. I went to Utrecht, Netherlands. That was the 1995 General Conference session. And I joined this is the birth of Impact Utrecht, which eventually they did an Impact Toronto. And then they, whatever the GC is, then they nourish this idea. The idea is to create the greatest impact that Adventists can leave in a place while we are having the GC session. Impact. And I was so excited. I was single, and that means I can meet different, people who are also single from different parts of the world. And of course, my wife was my sweetheart back then, and I said, I'll be back. And my wife said, it's okay if you don't. So I went. And we have several kinds of programs and ideas on how to create impact in the city. It's the first secular city that I have seen aside from maybe some parts of Manila. In Utrecht, there's a big mall right next to the sessions where it's being held. And that's where we focus our energy and our concentration to create an impact in the city. During the day, we give flyers and we have video cameras and we do interviews. We ask people, do you know Jesus? Interview. And we enjoy because it amazes me to find out that many young people who are, there just walking in the mall say, Jesus? I've heard about him, but I'm not quite sure. This is 1995, brothers and sisters. And of course, we know that Europe has come to what we call the post-Christian age. So the young people who grew up outside the church, maybe they were missing Christ, maybe, because they don't know what to respond when we ask that question. And what a crazy idea that we did is we built a big image of the dream of the King Nebuchadnezzar. It's actually his image, that form. And then we took photo of that and we print, and then we scatter those pictures out in the mall, and then we grab the flyer and say, excuse me, again, interview. Do you know this person? And we have A, Santa Claus, B, C, D. They have choices. Just to gauge how they understand this image. We're trying to create an impact, right? We don't know. And as a young Adventist, I was born and raised in an Adventist. I love being in Revelation. I love this dream. And in 5 minutes, if you give me that opportunity, I can prove to you the authenticity of the scriptures. I can preach to you the prophecy, believing that is the greatest impact I can make as far as preaching the gospel goes. I was on fire, 25 years old, back then. I don't speak their language. I'm having a hard time understanding broken English by a Dutch person, and me, a Filipino with thick accent, trying to communicate, trying to preach the word. Brothers and sisters, to me, I was so inspired. Creating an impact in the city, day in, day out. At evening time, we go to the pubs, the nightclubs, the bars. And there is Pastor Jose Rojas with his long beard, right where people were drinking. And we were there just as if we were customers as well, but talking to people, trying to create an impact. This was 1995. And then we report back to GZ. We're proud young people. We see our faces on the screen. People are clapping, saying, yes, what an impact are you creating? Until one day, at GZ, I was so surprised, so amazed with what I have seen. They started to invite people to sing this very popular song, Side by Side We Stand, holding hands together, okay, and reach you in heaven, right? But I was sitting right next to people whose delegation is coming from the country of Rwanda. 1994, if you've forgotten, there was a great war, civil war exploded in Rwanda. 1994, where Tutsis and Hutus tried to kill each other. Hundreds and thousands died. And it doesn't matter if you're Christian or non-Christian, Christianity is popular there. And there are many Seventh-day Adventists. Seventh-day Adventists are not excused in this civil war. There are many Seventh-day Adventist Tutsis who were killed by Hutus. And there are many Seventh-day Adventist Hutus who were killed by Tutsis. Seventh-day Adventists, brothers and sisters.
And while we were singing this side by side we stand song, you know this, were very popular, and holding each other's hand, in this delegation of the Rwanda that happened to sit right next to them, there were clenched jaws, and yet being washed, these clenched jaws being washed by overflowing tears, because Hutus and Tutsis are holding hands together. The greatest impact, my friends, of the gospel happened to me, not in the city. There I understood that if we can't love one another, everything that we do out there is meaningless and pointless. These people were crying because they are not safe from the pain that they experience, knowing that each one of them had been killing each other. And sometimes when someone is killed in your family, the only thing you see is your own lens. And the only motivation that you have is how to get even. Because that is a sense of your own justice. You have your own justice system in you. If you are violated, if you were persecuted, for no reason at all, you want to get even. And the emotion assigned to that is called anger. And that's the only natural outlet that we have, so that we can feel protected and we can feel happy, at peace, when vengeance somehow is attained. But when I saw, brothers and sisters, these Hutus and Tutsis right next to each other with a very strong, I don't know how to interpret how they hold hands to each other. If there's, I think it's a mixture of anger and the struggle for forgiveness. The clenched, jaws, but the overflowing tears in their eyes. I stopped singing and just watched them. I don't understand. I don't know what to say. The news was still very alive. There were still some conflict in Rwanda, but their delegation is there. Brothers and sisters, Jesus was praying in John 17, very, very heartfelt and seriously saying, "Oh, Father, Father," as if he was rumbling, "I pray that they may be one. I pray that they would love one another, just like us. Because if they do, then the world will know." We have elected new leaders today. I mean, this month, the nominating committee did a fantastic job in understanding your gifts and assigning you to certain positions as leaders. But even the nominating committee, even this church, it's not safe from the attempt of the enemy to divide us and to attack us. Even inside this church, let's pray for one another. It doesn't matter, brothers and sisters, if you could finish this building, but what's inside is a divided, people. We can't afford to, if you would like to preach the gospel, the prayer of Christ actually is for us all to be one. Not uniform. Don't mistake uniformity with unity. If Christ is aiming for uniformity, he would call our tax collectors, 12 tax collectors, or 12 zealots, or 12 Pharisees. No. God is not aiming for uniformity. God is aiming for unity. And what unity entails is our capacity to love one another despite our differences. This church needs more people even outside the Phil-Am culture. We need to go back to the idea of Christ. One sad thing is that sometimes what makes us united is because we have common enemy or common enemies. Sometimes we feel so delighted that we can highlight those who are against Seventh-day Adventists. Oh, we like that, because someday we will be persecuted by the rest of this world. And sometimes what binds it together is no longer Christ. It's the feeling that we are unique. It's the feeling that we will be persecuted. It's the feeling that we are a common target of other people in this world. That is not the unity that Christ was imagining, brothers and sisters. That's not the unity that Christ has envisioned for us. Let me tell you this. Christ is a champion for your justice, your own sense of justice if you're violated. Calvary is a demonstration of that. You know, the Me Too movement, I can see Jesus joining the Me Too movement, trying to advocate for you. March towards the goal of achieving justice system. But here's the thing. Once he get to the chamber where the proclamation will be announced, those who are accused by the accusers, who are finally will receive the death penalty because of the evil heart and the evil actions that they have done, once is that released, Jesus steps up and he would say to those who are accusing, sisters and brothers, you're right. This is painful. You were abused, you were violated, you were persecuted, and they deserve to die. But I love them as well, so I will take their place. I will take your place. That is the story of Calvary. Last night in our Bible study, the question was, what will you do if you are violated? What will you do if you are reviled? What would you do if you are insulted? Isn't it your right to just get even, to look for justice? That's your right. To tell the other person that it's not okay what they're doing. Christ will not stop you from achieving that. When the adulterous woman was being persecuted, Jesus says, yes, let's begin. Whoever doesn't have sin, cast the first stone. Christ was not against achieving whatever is expected in the justice system. But at the same time, my friends, once we realize what they deserve, Christ comes in and says, I'll take their place. I'll take the place. That's why on this shameful cross,